President Ranil Wickremesinghe addressed Parliament this morning and commented on Sri Lanka's economy and journey forward. At the onset, the President recalled how we accepted the challenges.
When I assumed leadership, our nation was in crisis. The economy was severely contracted, with inflation soaring to 70%. The budget deficit had surged to over 10 to 12% of the gross domestic product, prompting an increase in the interest rate to 30%. Moreover, the value of the dollar had risen to approximately 450 Sri Lankan rupees, while our foreign exchange reserves had depleted to zero. The majority of the population found themselves on the street, with some enduring lengthy queues for necessities, while others faced prolonged struggles. At the crucial moment, no one else volunteered to shoulder the responsibility of saving the country. Instead, they put forth different conditions. I unconditionally embraced the task of leading the country. I undertook this daunting mission with confidence for three key reasons. I had a well-thought-out plan, relevant experience, and established international connections. Consequently, I firmly believed that despite the country's descent into chaos, recovery was possible.
The President also elaborated on how challenges were overcome.
We anticipate economic growth of at least 3% this year. Inflation has significantly decreased to 1.5%. Additionally, the primary account balance, previously in deficit for several years, turned into a surplus of 0.6% of GDP in 2023. Furthermore, interest rates decreased substantially, reaching levels as low as 10 to 13%. Tourism rebounded, and remittances from foreign workers rose significantly. By the first quarter of 2024, the exchange rate dropped to less than 300 Sri Lankan rupees per US dollar. Furthermore, foreign exchange reserves exceeded $5 billion, signaling a favorable trajectory in economic stability. We reached this stage by navigating a challenging and demanding path, one that we believe to be the right course of action.
The President also commented on the future plans.
By December 2022, the total debt as a percentage of GDP had reached 128%, a concerning level. Hence, we devised a debt restructuring program which was structured into three primary phases. The initial phase involved restructuring domestic debt. The first phase was finalized in 2023. The second phase focused on restructuring loans obtained through official agreements with foreign countries. Following negotiations with these nations, a policy agreement on debt restructuring was successfully reached by November 2023. For this purpose, both the Paris Club and non-Paris Club countries, including China, have reached a policy agreement. The next step involves signing a memorandum of understanding with the creditor countries to finalize the process. The Sri Lankan government is presently in discussion regarding the draft with the official creditors committee. Additionally, negotiations are underway with China's Exim Bank. The third phase identified for restructuring is commercial debt. Consulting firm Lazard and Clifford Chance, representing the Sri Lankan government, are currently engaged in negotiations with creditor committees. Negotiations are progressing positively, with both parties considering proposals. We aim to conclude these discussions by mid this year.
President Wickremesinghe also responded to requests for salary and tax adjustments.
The government has extended the maximum level of concessions it can afford. Despite receiving numerous requests for salary revisions, there is currently no government revenue growth allocated to address this in 2024. Based on the trajectory of economic growth in 2024 and the corresponding increase in government revenue, reconsideration of public sector salaries next year is a realistic possibility. Leaving the current economic program could lead us back to a huge disaster.
The President also noted that multiple legal amendments will be introduced in the future.
At the conclusion of the debt restructuring process, we will be required to settle these debts. To do so, it is essential to increase government revenue. Also, it requires building up our foreign exchange reserves. If private sector intervention can effectively manage government enterprises, those entities burdening the people with taxes and losses should be re-evaluated given the finite nature of investments that can be mobilized domestically. The establishment of formal laws and a modern institutional framework is imperative to attract foreign investment into the country. To this end, we anticipate the establishment of a new economic commission through the amalgamation of various existing outdated institutions. Initial groundwork for establishing an international trade institute within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been completed, with a new law also prepared for this purpose. In the past 2 years, over 30 new laws and amendments have been enacted in this parliament with the objective of economic reforms in the country. Additionally, several similar laws are anticipated to be presented to this House in the near future. Notably, the Economic Transformation Bill, the Public Finance Bill and the Public Debt Management Bill are among the prominent legislation slated for submission.
He also noted that a unified agreement and consensus is essential for the country's reconstruction.
සමහර කණ්ඩායම් අප මේ ගත කරන්නේ අපායේ ඉන්ටර්වල් එකක් කියා පාච්චල් කරනවා. මම ඒ කියන්නේ
Despite the progress, there are certain groups that are unable to tolerate this advancement and trivialize our journey by likening it to an interval in hell. Allow me to address this notion. It's crucial to recognize that deviating from our current trajectory, driven by short-term and narrow objectives lacking a long-term vision, could lead us back into the depths of economic despair. I reiterate once more, there exists no alternative path to reconstructing our economy. No other program rivals the efficacy of the one currently in place, nor does any other plan offer a viable alternative. This underscores the critical need for a unified agreement and consensus on our economic reform program. Achieving consensus extends beyond the representatives within this House. It necessitates a unified consensus, which is not solely the responsibility of public representatives in Parliament, but also falls upon religious leaders, trade unions, professionals, the business community, non-governmental organizations, various opinion leaders, individuals with social influence, and every citizen. By advancing with agreement and consensus, we have the potential to swiftly elevate our standing as a developed nation on the global stage. Otherwise, prioritizing personal interests over the nation's well-being during this critical juncture could mark the onset of significant devastation. We implore everyone to recognize these perils and strive towards a unified agreement and consensus for the greater good of the country. Together, let's nurture this endeavor to propel our nation. Our actions today will shape the future. Will we be labeled as traitors to our nation, or will we be recognized as a group that genuinely cared for our country? That is the decision we must make today.
ගන්නවද නැතිනම් රටට ආදරය කළ පිරිසක් ලෙස හඳුන්වා ගන්නවද? අද අපි ගත යුතු තීරණය එයයි.